right, well, welcome everyone to this I Commit, We Commit session. And my name is Tabitha Spence, or Tabby. I am a member of the Asia-Europe People's Forum's communications team, as well as Food Sovereignty and Resource Justice Cluster and Climate Justice Cluster. And it's my great privilege to discuss the commitments that have been put forward by organizers, people involved in people's movements from around the world, particularly in the regions of Asia and Europe. And I just want to briefly explain that what we are talking about during this session on commitments, people's commitments, is known as the People's Pledge, which was produced in an iterative process over the last many months and years by participants who've been involved in the Asia-Europe People's Forum, which is open to those who want to participate. So this People's Pledge is, as I said, it was inclusively produced, and this session is designed to familiarize people with what the pledge is, the history of that pledge, and to also allow space for anyone who wants to come forward with their commitments. There will also be a whole session in which representatives from each of the 6 Asia-Europe People's Forum clusters can come forward to talk about the campaigns and activities they've been involved with over the last year plus, and how more people can get involved in those campaigns. So my co-moderator, Andy, will now share the history of the People's Agenda, the People's Charter, and how it relates to the People's Pledge.
Thank you so much, Tabby. That's brilliant. So, friends, here we are again, or not. Maybe you're here for the first time. And we share a common objective and aim. Our aim is to generate energy, momentum, and commitment to be part of contributing to what? To a just, peaceful, and sustainable world. And we're aiming to do that involvement. Asia-Europe People's 1413. Okay, so we have, as Tabby has said, we brought together across 45 plus events with thousands of people from, I think we've said, over 45 countries, coming together to share their commitments, their passion, their visions for our progressive and climate just futures. This is building on the energies and the analysis and the commitment of people who've been part of the Asia-Europe People's Forum since 1996, when we began. Initially, we brought together our wishes for change under what we called people's visions. We wanted to contribute alternatives which people could take forward in their engagement with their communities, with their movements, and where possible, engaging with parliamentarians for change. We then evolved into taking these together into a common document, common vision, which we called basically the People's Agenda. And this brought together all the different areas that people are passionate about. And slowly but surely, this came together in our final declarations and statements, which was our legacy of each of the forums as we progressed. And incredibly vibrant and exciting documents. And we share these every time, both with parliamentarians across Asia and Europe, and face-to-face since in Milan, face-to-face with the heads of state and government at ASEM itself. What they did with our views and visions, we can only judge. But we made a commitment to present our views and our visions, and we did it clearly and forcefully and directly. We heard in the last 2 years that this substantial, and these are substantial, detailed documents. They are alternative visions, but they're also big. We go into 30 pages plus, and some of the parliamentarians said to us, we support you, but we would like to have something more accessible, which is why we evolved over the last 2 years, as Tabby has said, collectively and inclusively, the People's Charter, which was presented in the session before this to parliamentarians and has been on our website over the last few months. And also in a dialogue, we said, people said, right, this is for parliamentarians, but what we are looking at constantly is to try and bring people together, bring more people to be part of our movements. Yeah? Some may want to engage with parliamentarians, some may not be able to, for a whole range of reasons, which we discussed a lot in our session on the right to dissent yesterday. But to bring people together around our common discourses, to share our common visions, to strengthen our common, our demands, our language, our visions and our hopes is what we want. We still need to do between ourselves as people aspiring for progressive futures. So we have developed, as Tabby has shared, something for people, for the people, of the people, by the people, our People's Pledge. And we wanted to then bring that to life here. And this session, the first part is going to be enabling a sharing of something which has been quite remarkable over the last few weeks, of it bringing the pledge together from different people in different countries. So I'm now going to pass back to Tabby to share briefly about the essence, I think we can go the essence of the People's Pledge before we give the world premiere of the Asia Europe People's Forum People's Pledge film. So back to you, Tabby.
Thanks a lot, Andy. Right now, we'll just open up a slide on which we're going to show the brief abbreviated version of what this pledge really entails. And I'll go over it very briefly. As Andy said, you know, this process was a long one, and there's actually quite a bit more depth to this pledge, but the nutshell version is right here before you on the screen. So our People's Pledge commits to all of us working together for, number one, guaranteed work for those who want it in essential low carbon social sectors, democratic decision-making at every level, a rapid phase out of polluting sectors. As we all know, this is urgently needed on a very rapid time frame. And social solidarity in meeting human needs to be a core part of our efforts. And so we're all pledging to continue extending solidarity in whatever way we can in meeting human needs. Number 5 is funding global just transition plans, Green New Deals, if we want to call them that, but essentially reparations, particularly from the countries of the global north, particularly the world's largest polluters historically and today, namely the United States and its military, but also other wealthy countries that have grown wealthy by polluting the planet and also exploiting people. So reparations, climate debt payments, and last but not least, peace, security, human dignity for all everywhere. And this is a pledge that we invite everyone, even if you weren't part of the process of producing this collective pledge, you know, you're invited to sign on to this pledge, to commit to this pledge. I think most people who are watching this are already doing all of these things. And so this is you know, this is just a collective affirmative process in which we state what we're doing, what kind of collective vision we have, and that it really is collective. We're not working in silos, we're not working in isolation. We are working together. We have a global vision for justice, peace, and sustainability. And with that, I'll hand it back to Andy, who's going to briefly talk about some of the opportunities for sharing commitments that you might be involved in.
Okay, yeah, and so essentially this process is not exclusive, and our lives are not exclusive and summarized in one or a list of commitments. Every moment of our days, we're exerting commitment to contribute to different things and different change. And so what we are encouraging you is to share through the chat in this process, symbolically, is I commit to whatever it is, whatever it is. I mean, I've already put a number of photos up saying I commit to continue to persistently and consistently ask, where is Sombat? Where is Sombat Somphon? That is one of my many commitments, but it's one I vocalize. It's not specifically in the pledge, but it's a part of representing aspects of that. Other people are expressing their solidarity on a daily basis in different ways. And we just want you to share that, yeah? We just want you to share that with passion, but I'm afraid it will still, we are constrained. We're not able to hug and share and share this eyeball to eyeball in a sense, but please just share in the chat as many commitments as you wish, yeah? And after we will be sharing our collective statement in our film coming up now, but then after that, if they're there, Tabby and I will talk everyone through them, yeah? So don't be shy. Don't be shy. I know you're not a shy group. So just whatever those commitments are, whatever they are, please, you know, express your solidarity and your wish to continue sharing those commitments in the coming weeks, months, and years, collectively to everyone else, and we communicate through our common medium, which is the chat today. Yeah. So please, please, please do that. And people are starting already. Thank you, and let it flow. Just really, you know, fill the chat, bust it. You know, we just want to see all that you can. Okay. So now, shall I or you introduce the film, Tabby? What would you like?
Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah. Okay. So this has been a beautiful expression of the creativity and the community and the variety and the depth and the diversity of people involved in the Asia-Europe People's Forum. And Tabby and I would just like to deeply thank everyone who has given their time, energy, and passion to doing this. It has happened over the last few days. Yeah, this is not something manicured. It's not been in the studio for weeks. It is live, and it is us. This is a platform to transform the People's Pledge into, we share a context which is in English, and then everything else, more or less, is we ask people to take bits of the pledge and translate it themselves and present it in the language of their choice. Okay, so this is a very wonderful and diverse group, and I thank everyone there. The last thing is this is just obvious for Tabby and me, to thank Vishnu. Astounding. You have worked to bring this together so it can be shared with the world today, thanks to your commitment, your skill, your passion, and your principles. So Vishnu, thank you. In a way, we dedicate, it's a dedication to your skill that it exists. Thank you. So without further ado, I think now, if it's possible, we'd love to present to you the I Commit, We Commit film, which is, as Tabby said, a collective expression of the Asia-Europe People's Forum People's Pledges. Thank you very much. Just slowly going to get in. There we go. Beautiful.
Every person in this planet shares a common humanity. We all want to be healthy, have a good education, have decent work, be supported with social protections, to drink clean water and breathe clean air. We all want to be respected whatever our background and gender identity, to live in peace and to respect our environments. But this is not the reality for the majority of people today. Now is the time for real change.
We commit to working with all our energies to join with others to create a just, equal, inclusive, peaceful, and environmentally respectful Asia and Europe. This is part of constructing a transformative global Green New Deal in each country and each community. We recognize this is essential to transition from today's fundamentally extractive and dehumanizing social, economic, and political systems to systems that safeguard all life, where the principles of equality and justice are paramount in all policies and practice.
Today's ecological, health, and social crises, coupled with structural injustices, continue undermining the possibility for billions of people around the world to live in dignity. While social inequality between people continues to deepen in the 21st century, even the bare minimum essentials of life are not guaranteed.
We, the people of Asia and Europe, reject the systemic violence experienced by people across the world and the unraveling of life itself by the dominant political and economic model. And we refuse to become the last generation who could have done something about it and failed.
Instead, we commit to reorienting our collective energies to the urgent task of transforming this failed system to one that meets the fundamental needs of all while repairing our broken planet. In doing so, we hope to build a better world, one where there's true participatory democracy in action, in our joint efforts at the local, national, and global levels, as well as in our households and workplaces. We aspire towards real justice and equality, where every voice is encouraged and heard, and where solidarity with the most marginalized is freely extended to ensure the dignity of all.
We need urgent and collective responses for our common future. We are pledging to work collaboratively for a just and rapid transition built from the ground up. We are committed to work together for a just, equal, inclusive, and ecologically sustainable world.
Kami berjanji untuk berkolaborasi untuk kebijakan, untuk keadilan sosial bagi semua, yang memastikan setiap orang mendapatkan layanan kesehatan yang terbuka dan berkualitas, listrik dari sumber-sumber lestari, pendidikan dan perumahan yang berkelanjutan, memungkinkan akses vaksinasi untuk semua, pendapatan dasar bagi semua yang menganggur, sakit, cacat, atau lanjut usia, mengakhiri kekerasan terhadap perempuan di rumah dan tempat kerja, di jalanan, dan di ruang publik, menjamin pekerjaan di sektor sosial yang mendasar dan rendah karbon, akses yang berkeadilan ke tanah, hutan, lautan, perikanan, dan sumber-sumber daya terkait.
निर्मल अग्नि है और मैं एक सामाजिक कार्यकर्ता हूँ। इस देश में अमीर और गरीब के बीच में कोई भेदभाव न हो, उसी का नाम सामाजिक न्याय है। इस देश में जाति पाति के बंधन मुक्त समाज हो, उसी का नाम सामाजिक न्याय है। और इस देश में नर और नारी के बीच में किसी प्रकार का कोई भी भेद न हो, वही सामाजिक न्याय है। मौलिक अधिकारों की हर नागरिक को समान रूप से प्राप्ति हो, वही सामाजिक न्याय है। और सामाजिक न्याय ही इस समाज को सुंदर और सुशोभित बना सकता है।
Sociale rechtvaardigheid voor iedereen. Een beleid kwaliteitsvolle gezondheidszorg, elektriciteit, onderwijs en huisvesting heeft. Een beleid die iedereen gratis toegang heeft tot vaccinatie. Een beleid die zorgt voor inkomen voor iedereen die werkloosheid, ziek, gehandicapt en bejaard is. Een beleid die einde maakt aan geweld tegen vrouwen, thuis en op het werk, op straat en op het veld. Een beleid die werkt, die herdeelt de koolstofarme sociale sectoren. Een beleid die het land, bossen, oceaan en visserij eerlijk verdeelt. Daar zit ik achter.
হ্যালো, আই এম অ্যান অ্যাক্টিভিস্ট। আই কমিট, উই কমিট। আমি প্রতিশ্রুতিবদ্ধ, আমরা প্রতিশ্রুতিবদ্ধ। আমরা একসাথে সার্বিক সামাজিক ন্যায়ের নীতি প্রণয়ন করার শপথ নিচ্ছি, যার মূল বিষয়গুলো হলো সবার জন্যে বিনামূল্যে চিকিৎসা, শিক্ষা, বাসস্থান ও বিদ্যুৎ, সবার জন্যে বিনামূল্যে টিকা, সবার জন্য ন্যূনতম রোজগার, অসুস্থতা, প্রতিবন্ধকতা বা বার্ধক্যের বাধা ছাড়াই বাড়িতে এবং কর্মক্ষেত্রে মহিলাদের প্রতি হিংসা হওয়ার সমাপ্তি, অত্যাবশ্যকীয় এবং পরিবেশ বান্ধব সামাজিক ক্ষেত্রে চাকরির নিশ্চয়তা, ভূমি, জল, বন এবং এদের আনুষঙ্গিক প্রাণী সম্পদের প্রতি সর্বজনীন অধিকারের নিশ্চয়তা। ধন্যবাদ।
ஒவ்வொரு மனிதருக்கும் தரமான சுகாதாரம், கல்வி, குடியிருப்பு மற்றும் தடையற்ற மின்சாரம் ஆகியவற்றை உறுதி செய்யும் சமூக நீதிக்கு எங்களை அர்ப்பணிக்கின்றேன்.
नमस्कार, I am तिलोत्तम पौडेल from नेपाल। म घर, समाज, सार्वजनिक र कार्यस्थलहरूमा महिला तथा बालबालिकामाथि हुने हिंसा अन्त्य गर्न प्रतिबद्ध छु। धन्यवाद।
We pledge to collaborate for policies for social justice for all, which ensure every person is guaranteed free and accessible quality health, sustainable electricity, education, and housing, and violence to women in homes, in workplaces, on the street, and in the field.
We pledge to collaborate for justice for all, in which Center for the Resources of Oceans, Forests, Land, and Fisheries, as well as associated resources.
Formas de democracias participativas reales a todos los niveles y en específico para lograr que el poder corporativo sea responsable por sus actividades negativas de manera jurídicamente vinculante.
Δεσμεύομαι να συνεργαστούμε για την πρόθεση πολιτικών που θα διευρύνουν με σαφή και συγκεκριμένο τρόπο τον χώρο και τα δικαιώματα της μεγάλης πλειοψηφίας των κατοίκων του πλανήτη, συμπεριλαμβανομένων γυναικών, αυτόχθονων λαών, έγχρωμων πληθυσμών, αγροτικών και άτυπων εργαζόμενων, μεταναστών και προσφύγων, μειονοτικών κοινοτήτων, περιθωριοποιημένων ομάδων και όλων όσων υφίστανται εκμετάλλευση, καταπίεση και διακρίσεις.
nous nous engageons à agir politiquement contre les privatisations, l'accaparement des ressources et l'assujettissement du salariat, et pour donner le pouvoir aux habitants et aux travailleurs, et cela à tous les niveaux.
मैं अहद करती हूँ कि इख्तिलाफ़ राय के हक, तंजीम साजी और आज़ादाना तौर पर मुनज़्ज़म होने के हक, आज़ादी इजहार और जलसे जुलूस के हक के कानूनी तहफ़्फ़ुज़ के लिए जदोजहद जारी रखूँगी। हमें इन हकूक़ की न सिर्फ ज़मानत हासिल होनी चाहिए, बल्कि हमारी जमहूरियतों में इन्हें मरकज़ी हैसियत हासिल होनी
Nangangako kaming magtulungan para sa mabilis at makatarungang pagbabago ng nakakasira at mapagsamantalang sistema.
2030 बसंग के अमीर मुल्की हन एस हवा गंदत हो के कई तरीके हन कम अज कम 50% खत्म थोत तो ने 2050 बसंग अने मुकम्मल तौर के हिने खत्म थो कवाजी
Mă angajez prin redirecționarea resurselor publice către inițiative pentru o tranziție justă, înlocuind sectoarele murdare cu cooperative agroecologice și case de semințe deținute și gestionate de țărani, și către o infrastructură publică necesară pentru a clădi comunități regenerative și regenerarea biodiversității.
ما تعود مصباحً في تحتية بوليسي مشترك در رسائي टेक्नोलॉजी همکاری معلومات و وکساسون صحت عامة و متاثرين إحزاري يكجهتي من نمايان
نتعهد بالتعاون من أجل سياسات تعزز التضامن والاحترام بيننا من خلال منح حقوق المواطنة الكاملة للاجئين واللاجئات وخصوصاً عند وقوع الكوارث.
كسي باليسي متكات تعاون تسأهد جبان أمست أبي هوا قيدي متكمان كوري هاي تس دا كاكا أوت أمت إلزامات بسن كسي فاتتس تغتبي دا كاكا أمت جمهوريات دا إنساني حقوق أمت ألم بردار إكبان كي أوت أمت ظلم ستمان مبلك إسي فاتتس تغتبي ودا كاكا أمت ماحولیات इंसाफन मिला डाका माशर्ती अमित बराबरीन मिला के इसे चागचिबी इसे पॉलिसी मुस्ते मिताउनेतस एहेदे जमान
abolishing tax havens, ending tax breaks for the rich, ending fossil fuel subsidies, phasing out polluting industries, and using their assets towards the just transitions.
যাতে প্রত্যেকটি দেশ তাদের বাজেটের অন্তত অর্ধেক এই ন্যায্য উত্তরণের উদ্যোগগুলিতে বরাদ্দ করে।
And crucially, by using 80% of military budgets to pay ecological and colonial reparations to the frontline communities, especially those in the global south.
Tpnw を力に世界と日本の平和を守ろう。守ろう。草の根の力で核兵器のない世界を実現しよう。実現しよう。核兵器をなくそう。核兵器をなくそう。核兵器をなくそう。核兵器をなくそう。
Cut military spending. Reduzcamos el gasto militar. Reduïm la despesa militar.
대립과 제재의 정치를 협력과 대화, 평화의 정치로 바꾸는 새로운 사회 구조를 만듭시다.
कर दिया मैं।
विवादों में शांतिपूर्ण समाधान और हिंसक संघर्षों में अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कानूनों के माध्यम से शांति प्रक्रिया।
Thank you. Thank you so much to both all the presenters, everyone who enjoyed their time and energy to making that. I am uplifted, I'm inspired, and I hope you all are energized by those contributions from the heart as people wanting to express in their own languages. And just to say, many people adapted what we suggested both in their own language and in English, and that is the richness and diversity and the inclusivity of what we have been doing and will continue to do. So thank you all from the bottom of my heart. The chat box is filling and is fantastic. So what I think between Tabby and myself, we will go through respectfully and I will read out. We would have dreamed if we had been an open hall or place that everyone could shout out what they wanted to say. But we will have to do it this way, I'm afraid, because that is the restrictions, but also the privileges that we have for coming together in this way. So I'm just going through now, and everyone's saying good day. And now we come to, sorry. so many people here. It's wonderful, wonderful indeed. Okay, so now, so I should have been here already. So busy, so much excitement here, and thank you all for that. So I just want to say that, oh, I realized what's happening here. This is this morning as well. Apologies, I was looking through this morning's session. Okay, so we have a commit to including debt forgiveness for the poorest countries and actions, and addressing poverty, especially the feminization of poverty, from Tahira Abdullah. Thank you. Teresa Horrigan, I commit to justice and peace and the integrity of creation. Thank you, Teresa. Tahira Abdullah, universal free health services for all. Wonderful and essential, and the basic human right to education for all. And Bernard Jogaraj agrees fully. Tahir Abdullah, clean drinking water for all and ending hunger now. Janessa Reyes, we are committing to actively engage and participate in the Right to Dissent Coalition. Fantastic. Neka Reyes on the Human Rights Online Philippines. Thank you. Nazreen, contractor, I commit to identifying and contacting human rights activists in India and, if possible, in the South Asian region. Fundamentally important. Deepening and strengthening our collective solidarity and mutual respect. From, I can't see your full name, sorry. That's better. From Rosemary Trajano, I'm committing to pursue a new advocacy for environmental health and climate justice in our small town in the north of the Philippines, but will continue to work for human rights, human dignity, and global justice. Rosemary, you are therefore at the heart of the Asia-Europe People's Forum, and because we are committed to change at every level, and beginning in our communities, in our households as well, is something which is fundamental. William Stanley, I commit and we commit from the Eco-Tree Global Forum and the IRDWSI in India. Thank you, William. Nasreen, contractor, I pledge to continually resist and participate in resistance struggles. This is what we are hoping and needing to do across the board. Thank you, Nasreen. From Chris Van Slambroek, I commit to promote international solidarity from a true equal and equity, for a true equal and equity and decolonized perspective. Thank you, Chris. Pierre Rousset, we commit from ESSF in France. Thank you, Pierre. J. de Jesus, we commit to continue campaigning for human rights and encourage more people to join the struggle and to always keep in mind the intersectionality of every people's concerns and issues. And you have hashtags at Stay Safe, Not Silent, Defend Human Rights, Resist Dictatorship, End Impunity. Thank you. And this is from I Defend, in Defense of Human Rights and Dignity Movement from the Philippines, who participated significantly in AEPF 12 in Ghent. From Shalmali Guttal, I commit to support people's and community rights, peace, justice, equality, and freedom from oppression and exploitation in every way, everywhere. Shalmali, we join you in that commitment. This is what the Asia-Europe People's Forum is hoping and trying to do. Maria Emanita, my organization and I commit to promote the new social contract for resilience and recovery from all economic and political turbulence, including COVID pandemic waves. Thank you, Maria Emanita from KSBSI in Indonesia. We commit from Jan C. Reyes, we commit to be part of the force in smashing patriarchy from Lilac, Purple Action for Indigenous Women's Rights. I commit to join you in that struggle, JNC. Bon luego, greetings, Bon. I commit to the synergy and intersectionality of the AEPF's People's Charter and People's Pledge in my academic work, teaching, research, outreach, as well as social media engagements. Thank you, Bon. James, raise your commitments are strong and many. We are committing to actively inspire, engage, and participate in the Right to Dissent Coalition. Thank you. That is a vital response to what we began yesterday, we hope. Hannah Hooks, I commit to continue to work for the equality for all people towards killing off this capitalist economic system that is responsible for killing off people and planet. Thank you. Jaya de Jesus, hashtag end the assault against human rights defenders. Again, from I Defend, in defense of human rights and dignity movement in the Philippines. Angu Prakoso, we commit, thank you. And from LA Sami, we commit and stand with you all. Together we are sure to make and realize a human-centered world. Thank you, Sami, very much indeed for that. And then we have a number of affirmations for the video. And from Jeremy Corbyn, thank you, Jeremy, for participating in the session. We have to defend human rights defenders and get their situation known on the global stage. The Project for Justice and Peace will help, always help with that. Jeremy, thank you for your continuing commitment to international solidarity. And we have a continuing commitment from William Stanley to I Commit and We Commit for Justice. Thank you, from the Oiko Tree Global Foundation. From Achin Vanaik, thank you, Achin, for joining us today and committing that we from the Coalition for Nuclear Disarmament and Peace, India, commit to keep on fighting for a nuclear-free South Asia and world. We all stand with you on that. We all stand with you. And from David Hooks, I commit to expose the corruption of the world elite, especially in the City of London. I join you with that, David. And we are central for doing that, indeed. Again, more affirmation from Jeremy Corbyn. Thank you. Teresa Horrigan, to keep asking for disappeared people, to know of their situation and fate. I join you with that, Teresa, and we all do. For Maris de la Cruz in the Philippines. Thank you, Maris, for being here today. The Network for Transformative Social Protection commits to endeavor to pursue the social justice agenda. Thanks to everyone who has contributed to making this virtual APF a success. From Angung Prakoso, I commit for a global justice order through social movements. Agung Prakoso, Indonesia, from IGJ, Indonesia for Global Justice. Thank you. From Farouk Tariq, thank you, Farouk. I commit to continue our struggle for food sovereignty and land rights. Absolutely. We have from Ananesa Aban, we commit to amplify voices from below, working for cross-border, people-to-people solidarity and towards alternative regionalism. Anging of the University of the Philippines Center for Integrative and Development Studies Program on Alternative Development. Salamat po. And then lastly, I think, we have Diani Inda from Rajmitasri, sorry for my pronunciation. I commit to humanity, peace, justice, transparent government to reduce climate degradation, prevent war and mass killing, stop people displacement from their homeland, protect human rights, and unity in diversity. Thank you, Diana, from the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. You sum up so much of what we have tried to bring together in the People's Pledge and the People's Charter. From Bablu Loitongvam, I commit to treating the citizens of Myanmar fleeing the repression into India and to ensure that they have access to the protection of their human rights. Thank you for that vital commitment. From Chandan Kumar, we commit for ensuring social protection for all informal workers in India by and supporting the Working People's Charter for India. Thank you, Chandan. Vital, vital, vital. From Tahira Abdullah, long live the Palestinian Intifada in solidarity. Intifada, Salamat and Zindabad. I commit solidarity with youth organizers being incarcerated. Getting feedback. And from Tabby I commit to solidarity with youth organizers who are being incarcerated for fighting for student unions and a progressive society. Wow. And that is just a snapshot of the commitments that have been shared. So we thank you from profoundly. It is so moving. And the aim of this is for you to just share what you wish and to know, you're not alone in your commitments. You are part of a global community who is trying to come together in expressions of solidarity and humanity in the fight for justice, of course. I think we will pause on talking through people's commitments on the chat, and with respect, we will of course bring back to them at the end. And now we will move, if that's okay, with Tabby. I think we should move to the discussion and the ways forward, where we have an opportunity which has been missing, sadly, in a number of AEPFs, where the energies and the ideas and the commitment from our campaigns and people who have come together in our workshops and our plenaries to say, you have been inspired, thank you. What next? And so this is an opportunity for for some of the people who have campaigns to share with you all, to just share briefly ways that you can become involved in them. And this is all about, as we say, to generate more collective engagement and collective energy to contribute to change. So we have a number of contributions here, and we are working under collective democratic principles. So we have asked for people to try and not share their full campaign, because hopefully people have participated in the activities of the AEPF to date, or they will be able to see the recordings afterwards. But now we are going to offer you, and I hope you will enjoy 2 or 3 minutes to share your campaign, or less if you wish, and how people can be involved. So we have, this is going to be creative as we progress, and a number of people are sharing things in different ways. But I'd like, if possible, to go first to Chris Van Sambroek from 111111 in Belgium, who I believe will be sharing from the Climate Justice and Just Transitions thematic cluster, if that's possible. Chris, can you join now? Thank you.
I'm here.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Hi, Andy. Hi,
I
Andy.
think we have a beautiful photograph you asked to share, which may or may not appear, and so it may come in front of your face. So it's no disrespect. Yeah.
No. But it's nice to have a picture there. First of all, I would like to make a shout out to our dear colleague Lydie Nakpul, who is also part of the Climate Justice and Just Transition cluster at the AEPF. Unfortunately, she's not feeling well today, so she cannot join. But I think big respect to her for her contribution to AEPF 13. And so I think it's important to mention that. I think the Climate Justice and Just Transition Working Group of AEPF has been campaigning in the last years, specifically on public finance for fossil fuels, and dozens of campaigners in Europe and Asia have been calling for divestment and for governments and public institutions to stop financing directly and indirectly fossil fuel projects. The first target was coal, and yes, I think we can say that we have achieved some good results as more governments and institutions in both Europe and Asia are withdrawing from coal projects and are phasing out new investments in coal. I think that's a big hooray. Of course, there's still a lot of work to be done. And yeah, after, let's say, targeting coal, we can now see that gas became a bit the new coal. Right? So there's still a lot of work to be done on gas and natural gas as, say, replacing the more dirty coal energy plants. So it's obvious that we will keep on pushing for higher ambitions in investing in renewable energy, which should be, in fact, the new standard. So we should only have, say, big investments, big and small, because also small communities have to be able to invest in renewable energy. In both sessions during, this week, we felt the need that the call for fair, adequate, predictable, transparent, and additional climate finance is more legitimate than ever before. Sadly, and despite the numerous calls and pledges, various climate funds remain underfunded. These climate funds are strategic in allowing governments to implement a just transition, a transition which strengthens the rights of the citizens related to access to clean and affordable energy, a healthy environment, healthy food, clean water, decent jobs, and so on. At this point, we have to scale up our campaigns. Our patience is running out, and we need to reframe the climate finance contributions as a historical obligation, because wealthy countries and corporations have historical climate debts for their excessive emissions and use of the atmospheric space, and secondly, also the adverse impacts of climate change on the poor. As we see a more lively debate on decolonization in Europe, we have to include reparations for this historical climate debt. This not only means commitment to provide climate finance, it also includes a radical reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, the provision of technology transfer, and reparations for impacts and lost opportunities. Repaying these climate debts is a basis for a fair and science-based solution to climate change. This is the moment for the climate justice movement to coordinate better its efforts to claim those reparations. The AEPF cluster is committed to take up this battle. We will reach out to you, and we invite you to include this call in your own local, national, and regional climate justice agenda. Climate justice now. Thank you, Andy.
Chris, thank you so much, and thank you very much. And just, I think at the end of this session, or in due course, we will send something to all people about how to get more involved if they're not already in certain areas. And maybe we could give links for organizations and movements to become part of APMDD in Asia, of course, to have maybe contacts, as you highlighted at the beginning, with gas activists, networks in Europe, and of course to contact their national climate action groups and movements, which require all energy and all strength on a daily basis.
Sure. Okay. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chris, and thank you for your correct time as well. I'd very much like to move on to our presentation, or a call for action. I think it's much more than that, here from Food Sovereignty and Resource Justice. And we have Simon Zia and Sylvia Kay, who are going to share how we can be involved and what are the key issues. Thank you. And over to you, Simon and Sylvia, please.
Thank you, Andy.
I believe you have a beautiful PowerPoint which is going to complement your presentation. So thank you for that. And I think it will miraculously appear somehow, maybe on the screen in a second. Ah, look at that. Wonderful.
Thank you, Andy, and it's a real honor and pleasure to be here with you and share the work of the Food Sovereignty and Resource Justice cluster that I'll present together with my dear friend Saima. So the upcoming kind of campaigns and work that the Food Sovereignty and Resource Justice cluster will work on will build on some of the sessions that we organized during AEPF 13. So we organized sessions and highlighted campaigns around land and water struggles, issues of trade, food sovereignty, markets, and food security. We really highlighted the struggle of the Indian farmers' mobilization and protest that is still ongoing. We are looking at how the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Peasants and other people working in rural areas can be used as a tool for struggle. We looked at issues of seeds, seed sovereignty, mutual aid and food justice. And we looked at issues of financialization of territories and nature. And those will continue to be issues of concern for us moving forward, but we want to highlight 4 specific issues and campaigns in particular. So I think we can go to the next slide, which Saima will share the first one.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. What lesson of the Indian farmers movement? We will continue take forward the lessons learned from the Indian farmers movement, mobilization and protest by organizing regional meetings and solidarity campaigns. We will also work with partners on the ground to work towards the repeal of the 3 farm acts, which proposing better alternatives to support livelihood, food security, and food sovereignty. So the next one will be Sylvia. You will read it.
So the next one,
next slide,
will be on really continuing to promote strategies for the implementation of this United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Peasants and other people working in rural areas, also known as UN DROP, in Asia and Europe. We'll be doing this by organizing training workshops and materials, dissemination and solidarity work, including in particular in Indonesia, the Philippines, and a number of European countries. And also we want to use the UN DROP really as an active tool for struggle and for advocacy and for pressure on governments by using the UN DROP to do a critical analysis of the 3 farm laws, the 3 farm acts that are being pushed through in India at the moment. Over to you, Saima, for the next one.
Okay. The next one. Okay. So the next one is we will further unpack the actors, mechanism, and impacts of financialization in our different regions through an ongoing dialogue series in consultation with members of the IPC Land and Territory Working Groups. We also want to very much identify cross-regional resistance strategies to push back against the increasing power of finance capital in our lives and and over the natural resources upon which we depend. This includes also a close look at the corporatization of agriculture and deregulation, which the 3 Indian farmers law will bring about. We will also discuss about this in our further campaigns.
And then finally, we're very inspired by some cross-cluster discussions that took place on AEPF around the impacts of the use of agrochemicals and biological weapons, especially since many of the actors, drivers, and of course the impacts are very similar in some of those areas. And these are really destroying people's lives, as well as poisoning soil, water, and communities. So we wanted to really And then finally, just the last slide is to say that if you would like to join us in these 4, particularly in these 4 areas that we've highlighted, we have an email link to a mailing list of our Food Sovereignty and Resource Justice cluster And so we encourage you to write to that should you wish to become involved. I'm sure that will also be circulated through the AEPF website. Thank you.
Sylvia and Saima, thank you both so much indeed. Shukriya, and thank you. And exactly that sort of the email connection, if you want to be involved. Sorry, thank you, Saima, and thank you, Sylvia, for that fantastic sharing and the inspiration that's coming from our work on food sovereignty and resources justice. The contacts, if you want to contact these social justice, the food sovereignty cluster, connection is there and warmly encouraged. And as Sylvia said, the AEPF is not about silos. The opposite, it's about linkages. And we know we have known for many, many years, we all know in our day-to-day lives that all our activities are interlinked, which is why the Charter, the People's Agendas, and also the Pledge show those interlinkages and those commonalities of activity and the joint activities which are coming out of our work on a regular basis. In that light, I would like to hopefully call on Rashmi Tanti to share some of the key priorities for campaigns and involvement in campaigns from our very important trade justice and corporate accountability.
And can I interrupt you for a while? I am at a farm and want to show something in practice linked with our food cluster, food sovereignty, and our effort, how we are doing at present time. So before you move forward, there is a video at a local farm in Lahore.
Okay.
Is that okay?
We are a very creative and open forum, so if you can share that somehow, Farooq, then please do.
Okay, this is Farooq Tarek from Food Cluster. This is a small garden in Lahore for vegetation. And this farm has been established without using any fertilizer, any pesticides, and with local seeds. We have not used any seed. And this is the okra, which is growing every day. You can see, and then you can see pumpkins. You can see some karellas, which are bitter lemon. And now we will also grow today some more seeds just as a demonstration. And we are promoting in Pakistan ideas of food sovereignty and ideas of natural farming. We are totally opposing the usage of pesticides and fertilizers for the vegetation and for the crops. And our campaign is going very well. Thousands of peasants are listening to us. And here I will show you, and I will now sow some seeds, which are tindas. I don't know what tinda mean, but this is a small green, like pumpkins, a local vegetable of Indian subcontinent, used very often. So let's go and do some seeding today in front of you. According to these are some of the seeds. This is the local cucumbers, and this is spinach. This is tindas. This is bitter lemon. This is coriander, and this is yes, pumpkins. So these are some of the seeds, but I'll grow just seeds. We this morning put in water for 2 hours. Now took out of the water, and now I will grow here. And after this, we will give some water, and it will grow within a week. Here we go. So we will grow one by one. And this is like bales. It will go around. And these tindas are very much liked, and people like it with some meat as well. So vegetable and meat together goes with this vegetable. It's very local. And this is also cucumber. So I don't know if, yes. No, there is none at present time, and there's some coriander next to it. So thank you. I will just end and we will do the rest later. And this is great to see all the clusters doing commitment, and our commitment is with the nature, and we will continue to grow natural food rather than food developed by pesticides, fertilizers, and these poisonous usage of different items. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Farouk. That is inspirational. And also, I think you have some very challenging soil to work with there, but it is wonderful to see and inspirational. And I also to say that we have maybe possibly some more seed sowing in soon. So thank you for that, Farouk. I would like now to call on Rashmi Tanti to share briefly, of course, some of the key campaigns and activities from the Trade Justice and Corporate Accountability Working Group and Cluster. Rashmi, are you there, please?
Yes, thank you, Andy. Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, I will share my screen. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I am Rahmi Atanti.
It's still not come live yet. It just says started sharing screen, but it's not come up yet.
Okay.
It's getting closer. It's getting closer. It's got a lot of kilometers to travel, but it's getting there.
Okay, I think is that a problem now? I also did. Okay, so I think
Yeah, it's not. I think you're buffering still.
Yeah, well, I think.
Could you share, please?
Wait a minute. I will try to share it.
There we go. That's it. No, you can share yourself, Rakmi. That will be wonderful.
Yeah, wait. I think I lost it again. Wait a minute, Andy. Try to share it again. I'm sorry. It sometimes happens. Okay, I will try to share it again. Sorry. Okay, now can you see it?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so yeah, I'm Rahmi Hartanti from Indonesia for Global Justice and a member of the Trade and Corporate Accountability Cluster. Together with Focus on the Global South, Global Justice UK Now, Transnational Institute, and 11-11-11. Yeah, so to continuing our work in the cluster, actually we have three main people's agenda in dementia. But
Can you make your screen full, please, Rakmi? Yeah.
I'm afraid that
no, just the presentation. Just
yeah,
the presentation.
Rakmi, try clicking F5 on your keyboard, and that should do it, because the button doesn't work in the Zoom.
Is that working now?
F5.
Yeah, I did that.
I think it's okay.
It's okay. Don't worry. It's fine.
Okay.
It's your word. Oh, we go. Beautiful. It's just your words are the important thing.
Yeah. So yeah. So as the main of our campaign actually is the TRIPS waiver for equal access of vaccines to end inequality. So in this momentum, we would like to invite you all, to one more time to push our government, to commit and support the TRIPS waiver proposal at the WTO in order to ensure equitable access to vaccines, medicines, technology, and medical equipment needed by the world during the COVID-19. The COVID-19 medicines and vaccines are global public goods. So we are committed to push our governments to agree to the TRIPS waiver proposal submitted by India and South Africa in October 2020 at the WTO to allow all countries to choose not to provide and or not to enforce IPR rules. Yeah, so therefore, actually to continuing our campaign, to continuing our effort, yeah, to spread the global call, yeah, to push, yeah, the global call to all governments in the world, yeah, we are inviting you to join, yeah, in this global call to push for the TRIPS waiver now for people's vaccines, yeah. Perhaps we can once again, yeah, to join with these Tpnw actions and posting your picture profile using a Tpnw as a form of our global action to put pressure on the WTO meeting and ensure that our government support the process of the discussions in the WTO. We know that the great news came from USA, and I think also we heard from the EU sides. And then I know that the battle now has started, yeah, in the WTO to negotiate everything. So that is why we are inviting you all to join in our global call, TRIPS waiver now for people's vaccines. So we have some, I can share with you the link of the Tpnw, so you can put it in your social media or in your emails and share it and mention to your governments. So if you're interested to join, I can share it later after this. And other campaign that we are working on, actually on to stop corporate monopoly and impunity. At least there are two issues. First, we commit to continue our struggle to push alternative trade agenda and stop corporate impunity. On this area, we will continue the work towards the realizations of the binding treaty on transnational corporations and other business enterprises and strengthen the movement against corporate impunity. But other things that also part of the campaign on alternative trade agenda and stop corporate impunity, actually also about how to stop the ISDS mechanisms, yeah, under the trade and investment agreements, including on the Energy Charter treaty itself. So also that is also part of our work in relations to the stop corporate impunity. And the last campaign that we also have actually on the digitalizations of life. So the negotiations on e-commerce as new issue in trade investment negotiations have extensive implications for equitable and sustainable development. And then the rise of big tech is opening a new frontier in extractivisms and the control of resources by big business. So therefore, one of big area in our campaign actually how we can stop the data colonialisms and push for strong commitments on data protections from big tech data mining and monopoly. So yeah, I think these three a big campaign that we have right now under our campaign is really open for all of you if you want to join in our campaign and build our solidarity and network. We are inviting you all to share your thoughts through this link, and I will share with you later through the chat box. I think that's it, Andy, from my side. From
Wonderful.
the cluster, Just Trade and Corporate Accountability. Thank
That's
you.
absolutely wonderful, Rashmi, and everyone involved in that work. And we all know that vital campaigns for the people's vaccine are taking part in many, many countries. And we've had a number of initiatives through the Asia Europe People's Forum and collaborating with those. And they are, as a number of people have said in the chat, including, well, many people have said, this is one of the symbolic but also vital challenges for us today, the TRIPS waiver. And as you said, we must not forget the structural issue of the binding treaty. So organizational and movement engagement with that is vital. And as you say, the digitalization of life area is challenging our day-to-day ability to act strategically and in solidarity. So thank you, Rahmi, and we will please share those links for people to follow in the chat, and I'm sure people will act on those.
Yeah, thank you, Andy.
I need a slight change in our order because I've been told that some people have to urgently leave sooner rather than later. So I'm now going to call on two people from the Participatory Democracy and Human Rights Working Group to share their brief interventions. Firstly, I'd like to call on Shalmali Kotal to share what we can do next following on yesterday's astounding and inspiring plenary on the right to dissent. So if you're able to access us from post-cyclone India, please, Shamali, could you share your key points now, please?
Yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly, perfectly.
Okay, good, good, good. We have electricity and internet, so okay. So we agreed in the Participatory Democracy, Human Rights and Migrants and Refugee Rights, we agreed on two broad campaigns. I will share the ideas for one of them, the Right to Dissent campaign. And the idea for this campaign emerged from our consultations over the past several years with social movements, journalists, parliamentarians, civil society activists about the downward spiraling of people's rights and fundamental freedoms, and the establishment of a new architecture of authoritarianism, clear signs of fascism, and the use of charges of sedition, anti-national, acting against national interest and security, inciting violence and instability, etc., against anybody who was deemed to be a threat to the economic, financial, and political interests of the elites. And of course, there's a clear political economy at work here where we see state and corporate forces are working in tandem at the cost of people's rights. So as Andy said, yesterday we had a very intense roundtable on this campaign. We presented a report, and we also had certain proposals on the table, which we requested responses from, and we had a very interesting and intense discussion. So it was a very rich set of points, inputs that our speakers and panelists made, and also there were very important inputs made by all the attendees on the chat and in the Q&A, which we couldn't address all of them. But what I'll share is just a few key commitments that we think emerged from the roundtable. So let me go into that right away. So we commit to building a community of people from different walks of life and work, political, social, cultural, economic, environmental, across class, across race, across gender, across boundaries, to assert the right to dissent. We commit to pressuring our governments to fulfill their human rights and democratic obligations to people, whether or not they're citizens, as laid out in national constitutions and international human rights treaties. We commit to countering corporate capture strategies at national and international levels, including at the United Nations, that aim to undermine state obligations with respect to human rights. Linking networks of defenders of people's and community rights, democracy and fundamental freedoms across countries, regions, sectors, and levels. Conscientizing the public through public outreach, various forms of public outreach about deepening authoritarianism, the rise of fascism, violation of people's rights and undermining of democracy, and the urgency of upholding the right to dissent. Publicizing truth and accurate information to counter lies, slander, and manipulation about those who are targeted by these forces, including journalists and whistleblowers, through social media, mainstream media, and legal judicial means. The targeting is through social media, mainstream media, and legal judicial means, and other violent threats and intimidation. And we have to counter that, this world of this reinvented world of reality that is being presented to create these enemies. Empowerment of those who have been targets of rights violations and violence, to support them to escape this victimhood and become strong voices for participatory democracy, human rights, migrants and refugee rights. Translating the spirit of solidarity to actions so that we participate in each other's struggles and fight each other's fights for fundamental rights, freedom and participatory democracy. And this translation of the spirit of solidarity to actions is particularly important because we are far away from each other. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We are isolated in many ways. And this is the perfect time. The last 2 years have been, last year and a half and the coming year is going to be the perfect time for authoritarian and fascist tendencies to cement, to entrench their roots and foundations. And we cannot allow this to happen. So we really need to look for actions that go well beyond words and statements. Now, we will integrate the inputs from all the panelists yesterday into the 10-country study we presented yesterday. We will also use all those inputs to develop a draft campaign plan, which will be shared. Now, there is a lot of work ahead of us. We cannot build the community and solidarity networks without the broadest participation from all of you. But at the same time, this is a very sensitive issue. And speaking publicly now, not just me, but many of others who have spoken publicly are in a situation where they are going to be made, we will be made visible to those who want to target us. And that's a reality. That's what happened yesterday too. So we can't get away from that. But we need to balance between being public and more within a closed group. So we request you to please join us and write to us at this email address that we have made. It's right2dissent@aepf.info, and I am going to copy it and put it in the chat right now. So thank you very much.
I've already done it.
Oh, thank you, Andy. Thank you. So thank you very much, and we look forward to working together. Onwards.
Beautiful. Thank you, Shamali. That's very, very important. And also we will put in the chat the link for the working document, the working publication on the right to dissent must be at the heart of our democracies. So you can all access that and appreciate the key messages that are there. Thank you very much, Shamali.
Thank you.
I would very much like, if it's possible, to call on the other participant, contributor from the Participatory Democracy and Human Rights and Migrants Working Group, which is Brid Brennan, to see if you can share in a couple of minutes your key ways that people can be involved in activities around migrant and refugee people's rights. Brid,
Okay.
can you join us?
Yes, thank you, Andy. Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
Okay. Yeah, actually, we don't have we didn't get around to having a PowerPoint or a fancy banner, but I would like, there's really about 5 points I would like to share with you. The very first one actually is the tremendous kind of spirit and atmosphere which we had in our open space debate, which brought together actually months of work, including the consultations that were done in parts of South Asia, also the processes we had in Europe, you know, with through the Permanent People's Tribunal. So we were able to bring this together and really feel across our distances a new energy and take new steps together. In our open space, we had affected communities of migrants and refugees. We had trade unionists. We had migrant domestic workers who are building a transnational network across Asia and actually globally. And we also had, of course, engaged human rights activists and people who are deeply involved with changing the equation for the rights of migrant and refugee peoples. We looked at, of course, the realities, which are very stark and very bleak in relation to the ongoing situation where migrants and refugees have been sort of sidelined into sites without rights. even when they are inside countries and when they are in labor situations and conditions. We also looked at the necropolitics of the Mediterranean and Aegean seas, where there's a deliberate policy that people are not allowed to be rescued and therefore are finding their grave at the bottom of those Mediterranean and Aegean Sea. And we also looked, of course, at the reality of the military coup in Myanmar, which is still pushing people over the borders to Bangladesh, to India, and so on. At the same time, we really shared strategies of resistance and ideas for campaigns. And I will now share with you those key ideas which we had. One of which, so the first one was what we ourselves would do. We are committed to a newly energized public information campaign on the realities, but also on the resistance and strategies of migrant and refugees themselves. And also to change the narrative, which makes migrants and refugees, which makes them criminals, which makes them the usurpers of the jobs and work of citizens, but who also make them to be marginalized from our society and even from our movements. So we feel that it's very important in this narrative to include their stories, their analysis, their contribution to a new diagnostic, a new analysis of where migrant and refugee movements want to work for substantial and system change with the other social movements who are also determined to reclaim the planet as well as people's rights. In our part of the—
We need to finish soon, Brid, because there are three other groups.
For the rights of migrants and refugees is also to recognize the current crisis as a crisis of not only a crisis, humanitarian crisis, but a crisis also of human rights. The second point is we will work with parliamentarians and all engaged movements to achieve a new regime, a new framework for migrant and refugee rights. We will also urge governments not only to ratify, where they have not done so, the standing UN binding treaties on migrants and refugees, but also the ILO conventions, and to break strongly with the regimes that have made them complicit actually in the denial, the wholesale, massive denial of human rights to migrants and refugees. And finally, we appeal to, well, all of us who are in the AEPF networks, the movements there, the trade unions there, the women's organizations, the climate justice organizations, but also beyond that. And the instrument that we have developed for that, and which we will be popularizing, is a global pact of people's solidarity that will strengthen the self-organization of migrants and refugees, but also develop their transnational alliances with citizens' organizations for change and the reclaiming of human rights at the center of our international regimes, but also contribute to the work that is absolutely needed to bring our planet back to human living and human sustainability.
Thank you. And Brid, I've put the connection for that into the chat box already, so people can follow that.
Yes, sorry, Andy.
Yeah, no, I've done it already for you.
Okay.
So that's brilliant, because we have 3 other speakers who are waiting.
Yeah, okay.
That's
okay,
brilliant.
Thanks, and well, we will see you. We will see you in the involvement, because this is always the reality check.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very, very much indeed, Brid. So we now have 3 more people contribute to share their campaigns that they wish to share. And first, I would like to call on Sastro from the National Organizing Committee of Indonesia to say a few words, and then I believe share an inspiring film from the organizing committee of Indonesia. Thank you very much, Sastro. Please.
Yes. Thank you, Andy. Can you hear me?
See you. And just to warn you, you only have a couple of minutes because you have the film as well.
Okay. Okay. My name is Sastro. I'm from. I'm representing of Indonesian NOC for AEPF. I'm from KPRI, Confederation of Indonesian People Movement. On behalf of NOC, I would like to bring our commitment in strengthening our struggle in the end of the capitalism and monopoly domination. We strong people solidarity for our collective economy. The Indonesian civil society movement, as part of the AEPF National Organizing Committee, have been actively involving in the AEPF 13 by holding a people movement dialogue to respond the global multidimensional crisis, COVID-19, and change in the New World Order on 18 and 20 May 2021. There were two main issues of our discussion. First is the agenda is for just transition, and the second is local initiative against domination of the capital economy. We consider that domination capitalism, one scheme, has been used to respond to the multi-dimensional crisis during the COVID-19. At the same time, the development version of the capitalism and neoliberalism does not have the paradigm of the social justice, gender justice, agrarian justice, and climate justice. For that, we need tremendous change that cannot done in the usual way as before the local, national, regional, and international level. The new normal is an effort to reform the old system into a new system that puts the people first, not recycling the old system that is outdated. Development that priorities the role of the community does not have characteristics that exploit human and natural resources without restriction. We must be reformed for bad implementation for social protection, and with more redistribution like universal basic income or JAMSTA, universal basic service, and redistribution land and mean of production or agrarian reform, and building alternative people-to-people solidarity. It's then a foundation of the mutual cooperation and justice and the sustainability of the natural resources. This development model is antithesis of capitalism. Building the economic solidarity must be realized as form of our independent of our production, distribution, consumption, and strengthen worker cooperative for management toward the fulfillment of the people need. There must be our common commitment from resistant domination and monopoly of capitalism. Therefore, we would like to ask you to together something of the slogan: people, economy collective against the domination capitalism.
Okay.
Passing the virus, revoke the omnibus law. People to people solidarity now. I will share about this our slogan, and before I'm finished, we have the short video. This from the committee share to our video. Thank you.
Okay, we will. We can show the video, but the time is running, so we may. I'll have to check, but we have time. What I could ask Sastro, if
okay.
we have social justice and peace and security to share. If we have time at the end, we will show the film, okay? Which is very fitting. I hope we can. I sincerely hope we can. Okay, thank you very much indeed. And for all the fantastic work of the Indonesian NOC. It has been astounding. Could I call on Chandan to, in a concise way, share in 2 minutes, if possible, the key campaigns that you want people to be involved in the social justice for all, and share how people can be involved in. We're not rerunning the campaigns, we're just showing how people can be involved, Chandan. Thank you.
Yes. Am I audible, Andy? Yeah?
You're divine.
Okay. So first of all, I really, I mean, my colleagues from the food clusters were talking about, but I cannot stop myself talking about the farmers' issues. And it has a huge implication on the working class questions also in India. And after 2 days, all the social movements is celebrating Black Day, because after 2 days, the farmer struggle is going to finish 6 months of the time. So we are very much part of the struggle, and just wanted to add that. But very quickly to talk about the social justice clusters. Starting, I think it's a great privilege to work with you, all of you, about the I Commit, We Commit session. I think we managed to get the good set of presentation, and it was so delighted to see all of them. Thanks, Andy, Tabby, for all of you who put it together. So in AEPF 13, we got many ideas and solidarity from the diverse social movements, which indeed have emerged from the events and sessions social justice clusters have organized and participated during AEPF 13. On the questions of income security, our plenary just reiterated what, as a cluster, we have been pushing through the Charter of Social Protection. We can say loudly with immense amount of confidence that all our fears and concerns and opinions about social protections are real. We will discuss this in urgently coming days and strategize our action plan. Similarly, for the housing campaign, we have managed to invite over 27 speakers from the 16 countries, and a very successful roundtable ended with a huge agenda we will be advancing in coming months. We have come together in big numbers and agreed to intensify a powerful campaign in Asia on the questions of decent habitat, public services, and social protection. We will also collaborate with our European comrades and learn from their experiences and powerful models they have managed to build over the years. Some of the thematics that came out from the session, which we would like to highlight, the need of social and the public housing, issues around the commodification of land management, deprivatization, and its intersection with housing. And of course, dire need for the good rental housing model, which we saw during COVID time, the women-led housing initiatives and their successes. So there are a lot of ideas on the table, and now we want to advance it because we had a very successful roundtable in the AEPF 13. The COVID has indeed created a health emergencies around the world, and taking those lessons and challenges. We did have a webinar in the health, on health in the beginning of last year. So just to say that this is at the center of our concerns, but COVID has confirmed our different positions on social protection. Linking to this, I also proudly share that the social justice clusters conveners managed to launch their book, Rethinking Social Justice, Voices of Asia and Europe, where so many individuals, including IOC members, part of different AEPF clusters, made very significant contributions. Thank you so much, Francine and Mina, for putting together our collective vision and mission in the form of a book. Many congratulations to both of you all. Lastly, I just like to just take a 30 seconds. I just want to say lastly, just few lines, that it is not enough to have a doctors and hospitals. You also need a clean water, air, but we have to also demand housing, public services, and employment. So these interlinkages are the main points we will continue to work on, such as environmental policies, economic policies, democracy, human rights, and migration. And these interesting thing, which we have been saying in the past year, is that for having a social justice, you also have to tackle transnational corporations. That is what is now happening with the campaigns for the WTO waiver on patents. So we feel confident that we are on the right track. And as a conclusion, social protection is central for meeting the needs of people, of societies, and of nature. It is a project of sustainability. And as our comrade Charles Santiago said, it is a matter of life and death now. This is a project for the political, economic, and social transformations of the highest importance. We're happy and proud to work on this topic, and AEPF 13 has been an important inspiration and motivation to continue this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chandan, and catch your breath. And that is brilliant. And we will share ways of people involved in the different campaigns as we bring all these commitments together, and an opportunity for people to join after this. And lastly, but absolutely never least, we'd like to call on Cora Fabros from Peace Building and Human Security to share your key campaigns, which I believe you have a PowerPoint to talk us through on this. Thank you, Cora, and also thank you for your brevity and your conciseness.
Thank you, Andy. Yes, I hope I have a short PowerPoint that should be shown. Of course, I'd like to thank AEPF for giving us this space. I will be very brief. Going through the peace and security cluster have three major campaigns that we've decided on to be focusing on for the next year or so. With the entry into force of the Tpnw, the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, last January 22, we know that the work is not over. So one of the major things that we need to do is actually to campaign for more countries to ratify the Tpnw. And because of that, part of our campaign really is that, lobbying both the countries in Europe and Asia to increase the countries that will sign into it and to ratify it. Because of this, one of the important work that we want to do is educational campaign, that continuing work. And we're doing this through the ABOM photo exhibitions that will be shared with the Asian and European partners. And also, of course, the Peace March, because this is meant to address the participation of young people. And also, we'd like to invite you to join the 2021 World Conference Against ANH Bombs. It's going to be hybrid at this point. That's how we are looking at it. And of course, the Peace Wave actions that will happen between August 6 and 9. Next slide, please. And our second campaign is actually on military spending, and this campaign has been going on for 10 years now. In fact, the last day of the global days of action on military spending was the last day. It was the first webinar that we held at Asia-Europe People's Forum. And this is a particular campaign that we have now adopted for the whole year. But the GDAMs happens every year. Now and we're doing this with the CIPRI, the Stockholm Research Institute. Just to call your attention that the global military spending has reached almost $2 trillion now. And one of the things that we emphasize actually is that we basically just need $141.2 billion for universal vaccination. And so you could really see the importance of really campaigning for the reduction of military spending, especially for the countries that are the highest military spenders. The campaign, you can search it at demilitarize.org. The next one, can I have the next slide?
Yeah, it's there.
Okay, the other campaign is also on finally resolving the ongoing conflict between North and South Korea. And so this is an important campaign that we'd like to invite you all to join us. This is a signature campaign. We're targeting 100 million. So I hope you get to be counted as one of the signatories. You have the link there. 70 years is enough. With your name, let's end the Korean War and sign the Korea Peace Appeal now.
Absolutely.
And next slide, please. The other campaign is a campaign for common security. This is new for peace and security, actually, and therefore our cluster hopes to contribute to the framing of a common security for Asia and Europe in the light of the review of the common security framework advanced by Olof Palme in commemoration of its 30 years report on next year, 2022. I'm not going into detail, but what I'd say is that we'd like to invite you to be part of this. It is in its what do you call this, early stages of trying to frame the common security policy for Asia and Europe. Next slide, please. I'm
afraid, Cora, we have to finish soon.
Yes, definitely. And with this, we'd like to bring the message of the AEPF 13 to the World Peace Congress in Barcelona. We'd like to invite you. There is the link there that you could see, where you could see the details. Next slide. I'm not going to go through this. It's going to be part of a document somewhere that has been crafted, I think, mainly through Andy's work and the committee. And finally, just to acknowledge the next slide, just to acknowledge, organizations that has been part of the Peace and Security Cluster. Most of these organizations have joined the 10 events that we have organized at AEPF 13. So that's it, Andy.
Perfect. Cora, that is exactly what we are aspiring, that you would show how people can be involved in campaigns with the links, with the focus, with the timetable. Perfect. Thank you, Cora, indeed. And also to everyone in Peace and Security for your vital work. Okay, so we are way over time, and I'm trying to see if it's at all possible, or not just whether we will show the Indonesian NOC film, which is brilliant, but when we will show it. So I believe we have a lot of people prepared for our final collective affirmation process. And so we have a transition between our next the closing ceremony, and I believe that the Indonesian NOC film will be shown as a key part of that transition. So, and it will be before the online rally. So you'll hopefully get even bigger audience. So if that's with your permission. So I'd like to now hand over 8,000 kilometers to Tabby for our collective affirmation to bring together our aspirations for the future. Over to you, Tabby.
Thanks a lot, Andy. And thanks to everyone for being here, for your commitments, participation, for all of the work that you do. It's really an inspiration. At this point, as we move toward the closing of this session, I would like to thank all of the people who agreed to participate in this aspect, some of whom who won't get the time to actually do the thing that they were invited to do, and will thus send in videos. But we want to make sure that we are able to make this collective affirmation of life, and what better way of doing that than sowing a seed, sowing a seedling. And so with this, I'd like to invite Raquel Castello, who's joining from the Philippines, to sow a plant here with us on camera. It is the Tree of Life. It's a sacred coconut seedling. And so with that, we will hand it over to Raquel. Raquel, are you here? I'm not seeing Raquel in the, here she is. Okay, oops. Are you able to turn on your camera? There she is. Hello.
Yes.
Thank you, Raquel.
Just a bit. I'm going to remove my virtual background so that you can see what's here. Okay, so this is the coconut seedling. This is the coconut seedling that we are going to plant. And this is my symbolic, this is going to be our symbolic planting. So it's a planting of the I Commit. We're planting the I Commit, but also we are planting solidarity with this seedling. So why is it called the tree of life? Because everything in it is being used, can be used to sustain life. And it is the second top export to the European countries at the moment. And yet all our coconut farmers are very poor and hungry, the poorest and the hungriest in our country. So let me now do this symbolic planting. So there, I hope that I'm able to cover it. There and up. And I would say that I commit to food justice. And I want to say that we should all commit to reclaiming our seeds, reclaiming our commons, and reclaiming our lives of dignity. So good evening, everybody. It's now
very good. Raquel, very good.
Hey.
Beautiful. So with that, we are going to bring this session to a close. We thank you, Raquel, for all of the work of setting this up, of doing this incredible moment of affirming life together with us. We invite those who also were ready to sow seeds or would like to sow seeds or seedlings to do so on camera and tweet it at _AEPF with hashtag AEPF13. We look forward to moving together forward with our People's Pledge and our commitments. Thank you all for being here.